What's up, guys? My name is TaiZen. Welcome to the cryptocurrency.market channel. This is a trading, investing, and entrepreneurship channel where we focus on the realities in the real world of trading, investing, and entrepreneurship. And in this video, guys, I want to share with you guys something about the skills that we practice every day. And I want to talk about, you become good at what you practice on, okay? So in a previous video I made, I talked about the problems that I encountered that I did not anticipate when I after making life-changing profits in cryptocurrency trading and investing. And I made that video because I did not, recently I've been running into a lot of problems like in my personal life, right? And I'm not talking about like anything like dramatic or anything like devastating or anything like very negative or anything like that. But it was just things, that I didn't anticipate. Like I developed, $1 million making trading skills, and now I only get to use a portion of that, the skills that I have been learning and practicing all these years. And sometimes it's kind of frustrating and it's kind of annoying, to me personally, that I spent all these years of my life learning how to make money and acquiring these skills, and then now, because I have made the life-changing profits that I wanted to, and I'm able to live the life that I want to live, just some of the everyday things that's around me I didn't anticipate that I would encounter. So I made that in a previous video. You guys can go watch it and see what I'm talking about. And in this video, it's kind of like an elaboration or a part 2 of that video, and I want to talk about why I don't know how to deal with some of the problems that I run into today in trading, investing, and making life-changing profits, okay? And many of you guys know that I came to America as a Vietnamese refugee after the war between the US and Vietnam, and I came to America as a very poor refugee, grew up in the ghettos, and hung around, a bunch of the wrong black guys. And then I ended up getting involved in drugs and ended up in federal prison for nearly 14 years, from the time I was 18 to the time I was in my mid-30s, around 34, 35 years old. And then I came out and I worked and I learned how to trade and invest my money. And it took me about 11 years before I was able to retire from my trading in my mid-40s. So in a few more weeks, next month I'll be 49 years old, and I've been retired now since for the last 3 years now. Okay, and it's nice, guys. It's nice, and some of the problems I run into today in my personal life and with my family and stuff, I never anticipated some of these problems because I never practiced or trained for them. Okay, so when I came to America as a refugee, I had been dirt poor. My family was forced to live in the poor ghetto black neighborhoods because to reduce expenses, and we had no money, and I was just dirt poor. That's why I got involved into drugs. There's an old saying that desperate times calls for desperate measures, and I'm not happy or I'm not proud of the things that I did in the ghetto, to get money to pay the bills and stuff. But I am grateful that that experience has happened to me, and it's made me a stronger person, so that I'm not one of those soft-ass snowflakes today that get butt hurt whenever somebody says something that I disagree with, or my feelings get offended. So I'm really proud of that. I'm glad that I grew up in the ghetto, so that I grew up as a strong man, so that I'm not afraid of other men, I'm not afraid of other people. I'm not, when I go out there and encounter people, I'm not scared of them. And if I don't know something, I know that I need to open my mouth, ask questions, and learn and study and practice it. And one of the things that growing up in the ghetto helped me was that it helped me to live a world of reality. And I contribute and I give credit to a lot of the things that I did to help me be able to retire early. Within just roughly a decade of my life. Where there's lots of my high school friends that graduated. They made much better grades than I did. They became doctors, lawyers, engineers, and everything, and they're still working a 9-to-5 job. Even though I was locked up for nearly 14 years, I come out and within roughly a decade, I was able to retire, okay? And I think that I could have done it even earlier, like 5 to 6 years earlier, if I didn't jack around and mess with the wrong people and do stuff that did not work in reality, you know? So that's why our channel here, I focus a lot on the things that we need to do to focus on becoming a better trader and investor and entrepreneur in the real world and not just in theory. And so one of the things that I realize, you know, I look back, you know, whenever I don't accomplish what I set out to accomplish, or when I find out that I don't know something or I suck at a certain skill, I always look back at myself and go, hey, you know, Ty, why are you not good at this skill? Like, for example, let's just take, for example, of like being a dad, okay? So I always had this fantasy that when I was growing up that I would be a very good dad, right? So I saw how, you know, my dad did not treat me well. He never cared very much for me, and, you know, or if he did, there was never any signs that he cared or even was concerned about how I was going to turn out when I grow up, you know. The only thing that he was concerned about was, you know, the things that I did so they would make him look good in the Vietnamese community, okay? Because, you know, we live in that saving face culture, you know. So if you don't understand what the saving face culture is, just search on YouTube for TaiZen, you know, saving face, and, you know, I got a few videos that explains it, right? So anyways, that was always my dad's concern, you know, was that me and my brother and his sons made him look good in his community and while he was growing up. And then, you know, it was expected that when I grow up, you know, that I would train my sons and my kids to make me look good and have a better face in front of the Vietnamese community. And so when I deviated from that, you know, and I didn't know about or have a full understanding of the saving face culture, that really bothered my dad, or I don't know what the deal was, but he was not a very good dad, you know, like on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, if I put myself as 10 being, you know, the best, or, you know, or the top, I would put myself at around a 10 when it comes to being a trader. But when it comes to being around a dad, I would probably put myself at like a 2 or maybe a 3. I'm probably just like, you know, slightly below average when it comes to being a dad. And, you know, the only thing that from the outside it makes me look good about being a dad is that, you know, I make, you know, a lot of money and I'm able to, you know, provide my kids with all the financial resources or the things that they want or they need, you know. And so on the surface it may look like, you know, hey, you know, Ty's an awesome dad or a badass dad or an awesome husband or whatever. But I know deep down inside, you know, because I like to keep it real and be true to myself. And I look at myself and I look at, you know, other dads, the way they treat their kids and the way that they, you know, spend time with their kids. And, you know, I'm probably not the best dad out there, and probably not even the best husband out there, even though, you know, my wife has never had to work, you know, since she's been with me, since she started dating me as a girlfriend and everything. And then after we got married and everything, even to this day, you know, even if I die and kick the bucket today, you know, I make sure that there's enough money and, you know, resources available to where she never has to work again, or, you know, my kids ever have to work or things like that. But still, that doesn't, just because I'm successful now, you know, from the financial aspect, you know, I look back at the things that I'm doing and I'm like, hey man, am I like the best dad that my kids can have? Am I the best husband that my wife can have? And I look back and I say, you know, I'm probably not, you know, and I'm gonna be honest with myself. And I'm sharing this with you guys. You guys know I like to keep it real and shit, you know, because most of these other fucking fake ass channels, you can't learn shit from them because they're fake as shit, right? So I'm sharing this with you guys so that if you guys are in the same shoes that I'm in, you know, maybe you guys can, you know, learn from my mistakes and learn from what I did that was wrong, and maybe make some adjustments in your life, okay? So one of the things that I didn't necessarily do something that was wrong, you know. What I think I did was that it's just something I just didn't do, you know, because I grew up poor, and me and my older brother, we were always fighting over a can of Coca-Cola. We were always fighting over a can of Pepsi. Everything we ate, you know, like if we had a mango, he and I would fight, you know, to see who got the bigger piece. If we had an apple, we would fight to see who got the bigger slice, right? If we had an orange or a grapefruit, we would fight to see who got more slices and the bigger slices. So when I was growing up, all I wanted was that I wanted to live a life where I didn't have to fight my brother or fight my sister or fight my younger brother over a slice of apple or over a slice of watermelon or things like that, you know. I remember there's a dish called thịt kho, bò kho, right, in Vietnamese, and it's just a stew. It's like a beef stew except it's with pork, and we have eggs in it, and we would have these big chunks of like fat in there. Like I'm not kidding you, it's like 3 fingers thick, and then, you know, maybe this much meat on it. And me and my brother would fight over that to see who would get those chunks of fat to eat, you know. And then me and my brother would fight over the eggs that were left in the pork stew. And I remember we would look at when we were working on the commercial fishing boats, and I would go to Houston, right, and I would get some parts for the fishing boat. Me and my brother would stop by, and we would save up some money, and we would stop by this one roast duck and roast pork place that sold Vietnamese roast duck and roast pork. And they had this one roast duck place that, man, that was so good, man. It was like a little stall, and they would, you know, you could buy one, get one free, and there'd be a whole block full of people waiting in line, like all the blue collar workers, and we would get in the line with them. And every time we went to Houston, we would stop by this roast duck place. I forget where it's at or what the name of the place was. All I remember was me and my brother, like, we thought we were living large, man, when we went there. And they would sell one, you buy one, get one free, and I would buy one, get one free, and then my brother would buy one and get one free, and they would give you a soda with it. And my brother and I would sit there, and we would sit in our work truck, and we would eat right there in downtown Houston, where they were selling this roast duck. And we would eat until our stomachs would burst, right? And we thought we was living large, and you know, we were doing well, you know, each time. And that would happen like every 2-3 months. We would get that opportunity once. We would save up our money. It was like $2-3, but that was a lot to us back then. And we would go there, right? And nowadays, when growing up like that, it forced me to really, you know, it's right now, you know, it's kind of bringing me flashbacks, you know, back to those days when me and my older brother, before we went to prison, you know, for drugs, you know, and those were like the few good memories that I have of me and my older brother, you know. Before each of us went to prison. I was like 18 and he was like, I think 19 or 20 at that time. So, you know, we went to prison. I haven't seen him since then, you know, other than on 1 or 2 visits. So that's why I was, you know, having flashbacks about me and my brother fighting each other over the roast duck and the roast pork, and back in the ghettos in the neighborhood, you know, when me and all my black friends and my older brother, when we would eat barbecue and stuff, you know, it was very common for us to, you know, like, if you didn't finish, you know, eating all that meat and the tendons and the gristle and the ligaments off the chicken bones or the pork bones, you know, we would like eyeball each other, look at each other's plate, and, you know, hey man, you gonna finish that bone or what, man? And you know, me and my black friends would fight over that shit, you know. But anyways, that's what happens when you're broke as shit, man. But anyways, so when I was growing up, all I could think of, man, was, you know, focus on learning how to make money. And when I didn't know how to do it, I didn't know the steps, the processes, and what I had to even, like, what direction to even go in. And then when I got into federal prison, you know, I met this black guy, you know, and I owe him a lot for sharing this book with me called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. At that time, I was still thinking about, you know, going to college when I get out of prison, even though it did not make any sense, right? But there was a part of me, being Vietnamese and being Asian, you know, I just felt like, man, I was compelled to have to go to college, you know, or else I'd be a total loser. But then when I read that Rich Dad, Poor Dad that this businessman from the Bahamas gave me, you know, it's the 4th most influential book I've ever read in my life. You know, it just completely transformed my life. And if you're wondering what the other 3 books were, the number 1 was Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins, and then number 2 was a book called A Victor's Reflection by Michael C. Tang. Okay, Michael C. Tang. The name of the book was A Victor's Reflection, and in that, you know, the Unlimited Power book helped me open my mind, you know, to where, you know, understanding what the difference was between a positive mindset and a negative mindset. And then A Victor's Reflection really showed me, you know, like, the one story in there that really inspired me, you know, out of all the Chinese characters and political characters. The one that really stood out was the founder of the Tang Dynasty, where he took over at 19 years old and became the China's most powerful emperor. And I was like astounded, like a 19-year-old did all this, when he was 19 years old, and here I am, rotting away in prison. So, the stories like that from the book about Chinese, Victor's Reflection is a Chinese history book. It's a summary, like a Cliff Notes version of Chinese history. So all the Chinese, powerful Chinese characters in there, it really inspired me, like, man, like all these guys were like in their late teens and early 20s, and they were able to accomplish these big things in China, and then here I am, a freaking dumbass sitting and rotting away in prison. So that inspired me to want to do something with my life instead of just rotting away in prison. I'm not going to tell you what the third book was, because until I meet you in person and know you who you are, I'm not going to share with you what the third most influential book in my life was, okay? But the fourth one was The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and in that book, he talks about like what's the that if you want to become a good healer, you want to become a good doctor, then you go to medical school. If you want to be a good electrical engineer and build electronic stuff, cell phones, satellites, TVs and stuff like that, then you go and study electrical engineering. But if you want to make money, you got to go learn about making money. And as simple as that statement was in Rich Dad Poor Dad's book, right, about learning financial literacy and understanding finances, right? That blew my mind. Like, all this time I thought I had to become a good mechanic or a good machinist and a good welder and a good pipe fitter, because I was working. My brother and I, my dad we owned a machine shop, and we were building commercial and rebuilding and building commercial fishing boats at that time. And I thought, well, I had to become a better welder or a better machinist to become rich. I didn't realize, man, you have to learn about finances, you have to learn about entrepreneurship, you have to learn about accounting, you have to learn about how the banking system works, how the stock market works, and these are the things that allows you to become wealthy in America. And so that book made a definitive decision in my mind, helped me make that final decision that, hey, I'm going to quit college and move on. And all I'm going to focus on is learning about money. And that's what I did. I spent the majority of my life since I was in my early 30s, just all I did every day, every night, I would do nothing but learn about finances. When I was in prison, they had what's called the ILL, the Interloan Library Program. So it was called the ILL program, which stands for Interloan Library Program. And each prisoner was allowed to use their prisoner ID and go to the prison library and request 2 books and check out 2 books and borrow 2 books. Right? So what happened was the prison would I would have to fill out an application, a request application, and then show my prison ID, and I would request 2 books. And then the prison would send, if they didn't have it in the prison library, they would send it to a nearby local library. And then the local library didn't have it, they would send it, forward it, the request, to another library. And I think it went through like 5 or 6 libraries, and if they didn't have that book, most of the time they have it. One of the libraries in the city would have it, and they would send those books to the prison, and then I got to read it for 2 weeks, and then I would give it back to the prison, and then they would send it back to the library that belonged to. And in America, they were able to do this because I think it's not just America, but around the world they have what's called media mail. So anytime you want to mail books, magazines, newspaper, DVDs, CDs, right, you can use what's called media mail, and they pay an extremely low postage rate. Most people don't know that, but you pay an extremely low postage rate. And then the reason why all the post offices do this around most of the world is because they want to encourage the spread of education and knowledge. Nowadays, we have the internet, so most people don't realize that we have that system in the U.S. Postal system. But if you just send it, it's called media mail. And if you send it books, magazines, any kind of media or educational content to spread knowledge and education or ideas, or share ideas, then the U.S. Post Office and most Western post offices will help you, give you a lower cost to send that. So that's how the prison and the libraries were able to loan the books to each other, right? And so at that time, pretty much any kind of like drama books, you can pretty much go to the first library and they'll have it. But when it comes to business and entrepreneurship and finance books, especially books about trading and investing, that was very, very difficult. So every time I put in a request for a book, there would be like 2 or 3, I would have to make 2 or 3 attempts. So in other words, each attempt would be like 5 libraries, and so every attempt would be 5 libraries, so I would have to go through like 15 libraries to get one finance book that I needed. And it was a long wait, so what I did was I went to all my friends in the prison, and I would borrow their prison IDs, and I would drag their ass to the prison library, and then I would fill out the request forms for the trading books and the finance books, and then I would use their prison ID and put it under their name. So by doing that, I was able to spread out. I would get like, I don't know, like sometimes 7, 8, 9 people. So because of that, I was able to check like 40, 50, 60 libraries at one time to get that one book, trading book that I needed. So whenever I got that book in, man, I would stay up all night. I would read that shit like 2, 3 times, right? And sometimes, because I'm a high school dropout, it takes me slower to read and understand shit. So I would have to read that, and then I would go down to the library and then put in another request to extend the borrowing that book for another 2 weeks, and so I can read it at least 2 times. And I made it a point that every book that I got in, I read at least 2 times, right? So, and because I did that, all my life, all I focused on when I was in prison was reading more books about trading. And then when I got out of prison, right, it was the first time that I pretty much had access to the world's library. So I was able to go on Amazon and a bunch of other bookstores like Barnes and Nobles and be able to buy it. Like I had a list of dream books that I wanted to read about trading and investing when I was in prison, but I could never get those books because they were hardback, and the prison would not let a hardback book come in because they felt that you could smuggle drugs inside the hard cover of the book. So it's extremely difficult to get a hardback cover in. So there were some books that I had to pay to get the book, and then I would have to pay the drug smugglers to smuggle the book in and to cut the cover off and just smuggle the inside of the book in without the hard cover on the outside, because I read the reviews in magazines and newspapers and everything, and they were saying that this is a good trading book and stuff, right? Long story short, guys, most of those books, like I read like, I don't know, hundreds of trading books in there, and most of those books are just garbage. I wouldn't even, if they gave it to me today for free, I wouldn't even take it, okay? But when I got out, I didn't know that most of these guys that were writing the books did not trade for a living, and they did not trade in the real world. They were only just analysts, okay? So guys that just read a bunch of charts, but they actually never put money on the line, because if they put money on the line, they would know that half the shit that they're writing in there is just a bunch of bullshit. That's why you guys don't ever hear me recommend any books, okay? The one thing that I focused on was trading, investing, and learning how to make money and entrepreneurship. And so I did that for every day. And then when I got out, right, I didn't worry about girls, I didn't worry about cars, all I did was I lived in a very small apartment complex when I got out of prison, right? And I went to work like 2 jobs almost every day, 7 days a week. And then when I had any free time at all, I just focused on trading, learning trading and investing, and trying to practice it online. And during this time, I never learned anything about parenting. I never learned how to be a good husband. I never learned how to be a good cook. I never learned I didn't learn any of this shit. Like what I would call like household and family stuff, right? And so because of that, now that I am free from the 9-to-5 job and I have the financial freedom to do what I want to do, go where I want to go, and live wherever I want to live, and now I'm spending time with my wife and kids at home, right? The problem I run into is like, okay, so now how do I be a good dad, okay? Because I have no freaking clue, because my dad was absolutely like, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's probably like a 0, right? So if I'm a 2 or 3, as far as being a dad, I'm not that much better than my own dad. I would say the only difference is that I don't beat my kids, and like my dad beat the shit out of me, and I have enough money to provide for my kids. That's probably the only difference, right? But other than that, like sometimes my kids would do shit at home, like they're acting up and they're acting crazy. And I feel like punching them in the stomach sometimes, even though they're only 6, 7 years old. Obviously I don't do it, I just, you think about things, but it doesn't mean that I actually do it in real life. And sometimes I feel like grabbing them and shaking them vigorously when I'm trying to make a big trade. I'm trying to move several bitcoins around, or hundreds of $1,000s around on a trade, and the kids are just screaming and yelling in my ear nonstop, right? And I tell them to stop it, and what do? They bust out their scooters, they bust out their electric motorcycles, and they're running around making even more noise, and they're racing each other throughout the house and shit. So all these things, but then there's a part of me that looks back and says, hey, I never had any of those toys, and when I was growing up, I was working, in my elementary school years, I was working picking fruit and vegetables out in the farms in the city of Salem, in the state of Oregon. and I should be grateful that my kids are able to, you know, play with all these electronic toys and motorcycles and scooters and bicycles and things like that, and I should be grateful that they're happy and stuff, you know, and they're enjoying their childhood, you know. And so there's this conflict, there's this internal tug of war, and this internal friction of pulling back and forth, you know, on one side of trying to be an even better trader, and then on the other side, right, of trying to be a good dad and a good husband to my wife, right? And you know, it sucks, man, because now I realize that I cannot even, like, the thought of like focusing on learning how to become an even better trader, right, has not even like really what do you call that? It's starting to slowly, the desire to want to become an even better trader than what I am now is slowly starting to diminish, because I look back and I'm like, you know what, you know, I've acquired the skills to manage a 7, 8, 9-figure portfolio now, and even if I learn more skills, right, to manage a 10, 11-figure portfolio or whatever, right, whatever's next level trading is, you know, is it really going to help the quality of my life? And that's something that if you guys are wondering, like, why my business partner LeonFu.com, the Honorable Grandmaster, legendary, world-renowned oracle of crypto, it does not broadcast very much on our channel, because every time I try to drag his ass onto the channel to just talk about trading and investing, the question he's always asking me is that going to improve the quality of my life? And the answer, almost 100% of the time, is no. Okay? Now I you know, I still broadcast because I enjoy it, you know, like most people like to go and play golf or do a bunch of stupid shit, you know. For me, my free time is like, I like to reminisce and recall the mistakes and the things that I did to get to where I'm at today and share it with the rest of the world, you know. I also do this so that I leave a video archive so that my kids in the future, if something happens to me, they can come back and look at how their dad was and how he encountered some of these problems and how he encountered some of the wealth problems that people run into to become wealthy, how, you know, their dad overcame the financial struggles, the poor neighborhoods, the poverty mindsets, and the negative friends, the negative environments that he was in, and to become a wealthy, you know, one of the wealthiest people in the world, you know. I want them to learn that. I want them to know that, you know, this is how dad got into the top 1% of society, you know. And so because of that, right, that's why I continue making these videos. For my business partner, Leon, he's like, man, you know, I don't need to be making videos. You know, we have a course online called the Cryptocurrency Investing Blueprint that Leon and I put together. It's a recording of our $25,000 crypto investing bootcamp. And we recorded the whole thing, that 4-day event, and we put it, edit it, and then we had our securities attorney review it to make sure everything we say in there is kosher and nothing we say, you know, violates any U.S. financial laws or anything. And so it's up, it's available for sale. You can get you a copy of it at www.cryptocurrency.market/blueprint. And you know, he says that, you know, you and I already put the cryptocurrency investing blueprint up. And it's available on our website, so if anybody wants to learn what we did, they can just go get a copy of it. Why do I need to broadcast every day? So that's my business partner's mentality, and I respect that, you know. Every blue moon when he and I meet up, you know, we'll shoot a video or something together, but for him to just get online and shoot these random videos like I do all the time, you know, he that's just not his cup of tea, because he doesn't see how that's going to improve his quality of life, okay? So he's already made enough money and set up the investments so his wife and his only child is set for the rest of their life also. So, you know, he's like, you know, I can make more videos, so it ain't gonna change the quality of my life or my kid's life or my wife's life, so why make them, right? So I just like sharing, you know, these things, because I wish that somebody would have shared it with me when I was growing up broke ass as shit, you know, and poor. I believe that if I had this knowledge today, that someone would have shared this with me and guided me when I was growing up, I think that I would not have gotten involved in drugs. I wouldn't have went to prison for nearly 14 years of my life and wasted all that time. So, and there's other people in prison besides myself that are going through the same thing, and that because they never had the right guidance. So I'm hoping that these video series that I leave on my channel, it serves as like the writings on the wall of how to go from a poverty environment into a wealth environment. Okay, so basically what I'm sharing with you guys is that all this time I spent learning how to make money and how to, you know, improve my financial skills. I never spent any time learning how to be a good husband. You know, I didn't learn any, and I didn't learn and I didn't practice and I didn't study any husband skills. I didn't learn any, you know, how to be a good father skills or practice them. So here I is, you know, in about 6 months, I'm gonna have, you know, my 4th child. So I'm gonna be a dad of a 4th child and a husband of my wife. And I'm pretty much like in the 1st grade when it comes to being a father and a husband. So these are the goals that I have moving forward. You know, I'm gonna spend the next few years and just, you know, apply the trading skills that I have and practice what I have. But, you know, I don't see that practicing, going out of my way to go learn, you know, more trading skills is going to improve my quality of life or my family's quality of life. I think that by becoming a better father and becoming a better husband and utilizing the wealth that I currently have already, I think that the quality of my life and the quality of my family life will be significantly better. And I think that ultimately, I think that that's what we all make you know, life-changing profits for, is so that we can personally have a better quality of life and our family can have a better quality of life, you know. So that's one of the reasons why you guys don't see me follow any traders on my Twitter, and I don't, you know, outside of guys like Tone Vays, you know, who I consider as a friend, you know. You know, I follow him just because we're friends, you know. But outside of, and Mark DeMesso, you know, I follow him because I consider him a friend. But other than that, you don't see me follow any traders or investors in crypto, because if, you know, once you learn the skills of how to manage a 7, 8, 9-figure portfolio, like what more do you need to learn? I mean, it's really, you just got to practice what you already know. And any new skills is not really related to trading. It's more like estate planning. It's more like tax planning. It's more like, you know, accounting, you know, and financial laws. Those are the things that improve my profits more than actual learning like technical analysis or any of that dumb shit, right? So, and I'm not saying that technical analysis is not important or it's not needed in trading. It is important and it is needed, but it's, you know, once you get to where you're managing a 7, 8, 9-figure portfolio, guys, technical analysis is the very, very last thing that you think about. Okay, I'm just letting you guys know. So that's why whenever I see online guys that are still talking about technical analysis, you know, and they've been in crypto for 4, 5, 6, 7 years already, then that just lets me know what level that they're at, because they haven't reached a higher level. Because if they did, they wouldn't be focused on technical analysis. Okay, I mean, you don't see like Mike Novogratz, the hedge fund manager managing $1 billion or whatever, you don't see him talking about technical analysis. Okay, that's just not something you do when you get into the 7, 8, 9-figure portfolio range. Okay, that's something you do when you're like, you know, managing like $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000. You know, but once you get into the bigger portfolio size, that's not what's important. What's important is understanding the tax laws, the financial laws, and the estate planning laws, so that you'll know how to manage and protect your assets. Okay, so just wanted to share this video with you guys, you know, about the husband skills and the father skills, and so that you guys don't overlook that, you know, because if you're in crypto right now, you guys are getting into crypto right now, especially if you're buying, you know, stuff like Tezos and things like that right now, more than likely you are going to end up making a bunch of life-changing profits, guys. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Don't lose your coins. Do not keep your coins on the exchange. Keep your coins in a hardware wallet, and just don't, you know, sell during a bear market. Sell whenever we start going up into a massive bull market, right? And most important things, guys, know what you want in life. Know the life that you want to live, so that when the market gives you the opportunity to have the profits to pay for that life that you want to live, then you can sell and do that. Okay, selling, when you sell to take profits, is not based on technical analysis, guys. Selling to take profits is based on the kind of life that you want to live. Determine that ahead of time, right? If you don't know that, watch one of my videos where I just search for TaiZen, you know, the biggest mistake that we made in the bull market of 2017. And I go over what the biggest mistake is that everybody made. Go watch that video take some time out, 30 minutes, an hour, and write down the things that I should talk about in that video for your personal life and the goals that you want, so that when we go into the next bull market and the market gives you the opportunity to create the life that you want to live, right? That way you don't have to look at technical analysis. You don't have to ask anybody like, hey, do I sell now or do I sell tomorrow or next month or when, okay? Because when you sell is dictated by you personally, not by the markets, okay? So thanks for watching this video, guys. Make sure that if you're not following us, follow me on Twitter at TaiZen, right? And then you can also follow our newsletter, subscribe to our newsletter, where we send out really good stuff each week to all our newsletter subscribers. You can go and subscribe to that at www.cryptocurrency.market/newsletter and enter your name and email there. And I'll send you a video on the 6 key ingredients to building a profitable crypto trading system, okay? So go and subscribe to our newsletter and I'll send you that email. Put your email in and I'll send you the 6 key ingredients to a profitable trading system, guys. All right, and thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in a future video.